because you know their numbers. You
Right.
can probably text them if there's a problem, like there's mold in the school or something.
Right.
They'd probably take care of it. So what is it that you guys are beefing about?
Right.
They won't even tell us. We have
Very effective protest.
I was going to say, are they...
We're upset, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to wear all black. I
So-
think that's what this article is on KMI's ABC17news.com says. But it starts out, it's in the wake of the shooting, but then the head of the school union says, no, it's not about the safety for that kind of thing. But we have with us Brian Hauswirth. He's in studio, and maybe he has information on this or other important news to catch us up on.
It's been a busy.
They put me in charge of the buttons this time, so I better.
Here I am.
There you go.
There we go. Thank you so much, Counselor and Taylor. Good to see you, and
Hey, Brian.
Ann and John as well. Yeah, the reporter probably could have used a little bit of help on that because it's a little confusing. I don't know what specifically they are protesting. The teachers union has not let us know, but what I do know it involves is later this morning at Hickman, the Columbia Public Schools is going to kind of do, and they've done this before. This is the second time. Kind of a weapons detection system. They sent a note home with parents. I've got the letter that was sent back on my desk. I can bring it out maybe during the next segment or next hour if you'd like. But I think what they're, I'm not sure why the union's protesting, but this is not the first time they've done it. They have done this before.
Where they won't say what they're protesting. They just show up and protest.
Well, and keep in
What do their
mind,
signs say? We're secretly mad at you. We don't want people to know
They're
why.
frowny faces, and that's it.
I know this. The school district is saying it's a non-invasive. Basically, you just you walk through, and you don't have to use
like
a
a
wand
metal
or-
detector.
Very similar. Yeah, it's. I
Oh,
think
is
it's-
it because they're going to search the teacher stuff?
I don't know. I'm unclear. I've not heard specifically from the teachers union. But Taylor's absolutely right. The union has endorsed every single one of those candidates over there. One of them last year had been endorsed before. He did not get the endorsement, and he lost his reelection bid. The union they have a lot of clout.
Yeah.
And we've documented that in many districts, particularly at CPS. But I don't know. I think this is more of the teachers union, more about the administration than it is the board from basically trying to read that article. But it is confusing because they reference the shooting, but they're not saying which shooting it was at first. But that's what it is. The school board is meeting tonight. I actually think the nutrition report is a kind of a big deal too as well. They're talking about some of the issues, the challenges that they're facing on that. So
and also they're talking about, and this will get the parents. Some parents mad no matter what they do, but they're talking about realignment plans.
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a report, and coming up, and that's always a big issue.
Brian, do you know how often they do that?
I believe it was a elementary school the last time. It's not any set amount of years. It's just when schools come on board.
But I want to say it happens pretty frequently in Columbia. Elise and I, before we built our house down in Ashland, we lived Beulah Ralph out on Thornbrook. That's a fairly new elementary school. The new middle school down there. Battle wasn't too long ago that Battle High School got built, and so they have to do realignments. But when you are a parent or a family and you build your house or buy a house here in Columbia, which school you go to matters, and these realignments can really throw off your education.
And they always
plan.
seem to be tweaking them,
right?
With the
That's what I
middle
thought.
school they go to, which elementary.
And also keep in mind what Taylor said is absolutely correct, and that is based on the growth too. There's been so much growth. I went down to when they opened up the new fire station off of, I believe it was off of Scott Boulevard back in September. I had a chance to talk to DeCarlo and Seawood, and again, I find parts of Columbia every day, and I've been here for seems like forever. The Mid-Missouri area that I didn't know existed, but that growth down there is just absolutely incredible. So, yeah, that is coming up. The nutrition but the Hickman thing is going on this morning. Worth mentioning, both of you, that we had a murder over the weekend in Columbia, and I don't have the specifics yet because we don't have court documents. We'll expect to get those sometime this morning. The charges may have been filed, but the prosecutor's office and the clerk's office won't open until 8 o'clock this morning. But we did have a woman who was killed late Friday night or early Saturday morning, and prosecutors are seeking first-degree murder charges against the suspect, John Williamson III of Columbia. From all indications, maybe domestic violence. We don't know that. I looked up his criminal history. He was going to go on trial in April, and still will, for an alleged unlawful use of a weapon incident. He's also charged with felony stealing and with possession of a controlled substance for February. His bigger issue right now is going to be facing this first-degree murder. But I was a little surprised he was out as these trials were going to be starting, but he was, and he's not in the jail right now. I confirm that. He is not listed and currently listed on the Boone County jail roster, so I'm not sure exactly where he is.
Did they arrest him in the county?
They arrested him in the city, but you normally...
within Boone County.
Yeah, and but there could be... He could be in the hospital for some reason. I don't know. I know for a fact he is not in the jail. He's not listed, and I confirm that as well with a source that he's not. So we'll see what happens. I do expect charges sometime this morning.
They could still be questioning him, or you're right, he could be in the hospital.
Yes.
Or they have so much overcrowding at the jail, they're housing a lot of individuals. But I go to court, they'll be like, okay, now Montgomery County
That's right.
jail, now this jail, now that jail, because they're housing different Boone County jail inmates in different counties.
And for those listening, Jennifer goes to court a lot because she is an attorney, not because she is on trial.
A criminal defense
on the
attorney.
wrong side of the law.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I show up for my court dates because I'm getting arrested all the time.
Exactly. But there's I go to arraignments, see all the time when I'm covering court cases, and at the beginning of it, there'll be Judge Crane or Judge Jacobs. They will start, usually they'll do the video docket from Boone County, but before they do that, they'll always go to Montgomery County first a lot. Seems like Montgomery, maybe a couple here in Moberly here and there, but it seems like Montgomery, and then they go to Boone.
Right.
So, but we'll keep you posted, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brian, for that news update. So the other thing, school-related, that I learned about at one of the Veterans United parties from a parent is that Beulah, which you mentioned earlier, one of the new ones, apparently they have an anxiety room. So if a kid is feeling stressed or anxious about something, they just send them to that room so they can chill out and it's quiet and relaxed. And things have changed with the use of the word anxiety in my lifetime, because I used to be under the impression that this was like a serious mental problem. If you have anxiety, it's something that needs to be treated, for people that suffer and it can be debilitating, anxiety, but now it seems to be used synonymously with stress. And I think it's bad that we are trying to get rid of that, because what some see as anxiety is what drove me to accomplish anything in my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I have a test, I'm stressed out about it. Well, that makes me study, which makes me perform well on the test. Have you noticed this trend, Taylor?
Absolutely. So Lisa and I have 3 little boys. We went to Universal the week before Thanksgiving, and my oldest son didn't want to try something because he said, this makes me feel uncomfortable. And the way he phrased it, it made me sound like it was something he'd heard in school, just what they're teaching and talking to our kids about. Like, if you are uncomfortable with trying something, if it makes you anxious or stressed, you don't have to do it. And that's absurd.
Did they ever get sent to or did they go to Beulah?
No, we go to Southern Boone
room?
now.
Okay.
So, we got out of CPS about 4 years ago.
But what are you teaching them? Oh, well, if you feel worried about it, then you don't have to do it. You can go just chill in this room.
Man, I wish that's how real life works.
How is that?
Right. Work is stressful.
What are we going to talk about this next segment? Instead of prepping for the next segment on the commercial, I'll just go sit in a quiet room because I'm stressed out. What in the world,
Taylor, nobody'd ever get out of boot camp, would they?
No, I was just thinking about being on a ship, like the number of stressful situations that you have to be in just because of the world. And there's no anxiety room anywhere.
So this parent's like, if I hear that you went to the anxiety room again, you're in trouble. Like, I'm like,
You'll
good for you.
think
He has to go to
Anxiety
the
room.
anxiety room because he's stressed about the anxiety room.
That would be ironic. But I'm interested from listeners. Are other Texas 573 Guest co-host. I'm a guest co-host, and so is Taylor Burks.
A guest co-host.
Yes. So, welcome, and it's time to talk about what's going on in D.C. Our Congressman Eric Burleson was on Newsmax saying talking about their plans for the impeachment inquiry, and we have a clip for that to play.
I'm going to vote absolutely for it. I wish we could have had the vote last week or the week before. I think it's high time that we, commit to this formal part of the process. And the reason why we need to do this is because we're getting blocked by the Biden administration. They're not giving us access. We have Hunter Biden, who's refusing to come in for a deposition. And so we have a lot. We're getting to a point where we need to get more information, but until we are under formal impeachment inquiry, we're probably not going to get all the information we need.
All right. So that will kick off our daily DC rundown. We need this impeachment inquiry, he says, because they're not cooperating and giving information. And now we have an even slighter majority in the House to get any of this done. It was all, kind of a wrench was thrown in it, Taylor, with the vote for the Speaker of the House. So they had started getting all this stuff together. And then for how many months now?
Yeah.
That's been up in the air. So I'm glad that this Wednesday they're going to kick that back off, because it seems like the more different committees that are investigating things, the more receipts they're finding, and the closer they're getting to indicating that maybe Joe Biden had knowledge of the shady business practices of Hunter. What are your thoughts?
China, oh, no, absolutely. And I spoke a lot about this last year in 2022. The question I have, or the concern that I have, is now there are, it's a 3-vote GOP majority with Kevin McCarthy leaving, with George Santos kicked out of Congress, at least for the next 3-4 months. The most Republicans are going to have is a 3-vote margin. And you know that there are some of these really moderate centrist Republicans that are really averse, representing Biden districts, really averse to moving to impeachment inquiries. And so I'm curious if they have the votes to start this, if this is maybe just performative for some of our base on the conservative side. But, you pointed it out, Jen, that the stonewalling that the executive branch can do around the president until he wants to answer questions is pretty enormous. And Congress has to have the ability to ask the right questions. The committees aren't getting their responses, and so this is the next step.
Well, I hope that it bears fruit, because they've already uncovered an enormous amount of things. They have checks, they have all these things, and I hear points from the left, oh, that's just paying off car loans and things like that. Give me a break. What
was it, 10% to the big guy?
Yeah, Hunter's making millions of dollars. Why would he be borrowing car payment money
Thanks for having me on.
Well, we got some numbers on last week that have changed some prognoses among, the markets people, and they're calling this a soft landing. They're saying the economy's soft landing comes into view as job growth slowly descends. Tell us what's going on right now. What do these numbers mean to you, and what do they mean to our listeners?
So I actually wouldn't read that much into these numbers. I don't think they tell us much about how this story ends. I agree that a soft landing is in view in the same way that if you're an airplane approaching the airport's in view, but you still don't know whether it's going to be a smooth or rough landing. And the reason we don't know that yet is because inflation is not yet down to 2%. And the definition of soft landing, at least that I would put forward, is we get back down to 2% where we should be without any kind of recession or dramatic slowdown in growth. And we're just really too early to tell right now.
Yeah, they're saying low unemployment, moderating job gains, and easing inflation are consistent with a so-called soft landing. This is the Wall Street Journal, where inflation cools without a recession. But it says that Friday's report could temper enthusiasm by bond market investors that the central bank will cut interest rates as soon as March. For that to happen, the economy would likely need to show signs that hiring, spending, and investment were slowing sharply, something that isn't evident in the recent economic data. So it's kind of a good news, bad news thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, markets have been desperate for some time for the Fed to announce, or earlier in the year, they were desperate for the Fed to announce that they were going to stop raising rates. And now they're desperate for the Fed to announce that they're going to cut rates a lot. And the funny thing is that's completely incompatible with a soft landing story. If we go to a soft landing, what that means is that we'll get down to 2% inflation without the Fed having to do anything dramatic. The only scenario where the Fed cuts rates a lot next year is one where we enter a recession and they have to cut rates to try to fight that. So to me, though, the main weaknesses in the economy are still there, which is that the growth number we had, which everyone was touting as a big number, if you look under the hood, is driven all by consumer spending. And the consumer spending was based on people exhausting the rest of their pandemic savings, all the government checks that they had built up. Mm-hmm. And when you look at things now, credit card debt is over $1 trillion, and delinquencies are rising at the fastest pace in over a decade.
Oh, man.
I have a question, Aaron. This is Taylor. So I look a lot at labor markets just in my day job. I'm the president of Ross Inc., has a number of companies, including landscape, outdoor sports. What's the potentiality of a recession without skyrocketing unemployment? I mean, the labor markets have been so weird for the last 4 months. And what we're looking at is, continued strong job growth and hiring, even while we see softness in the economy. So for the average person here in mid-Missouri, talking about a soft landing, talking about the potentiality of a recession, what's that mean for jobs, though?
Yeah, you're right. The labor market has been weird. I mean, not just the past 4 months, but really for the past couple of years with all the labor shortages. And, I'm not convinced we're going to go into full-blown recession territory. I do think we're going to see growth considerably slow. And just the big question mark is whether it goes negative or floats above zero. But I think, as you well know through direct experience now, that employers, even as the economy weakens, are going to be very reluctant to let go of workers because they know how hard it might be to get them back. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the recession signs are going to be seen first in the labor market. I think we'll see them everywhere else if we do see them. And then if it gets bad enough, then employers will very reluctantly shed workers.
Aaron, so at the Veterans United holiday party, that's a mortgage company, for listeners unfamiliar, the CEO, there was a joke basically in the video that got presented where the CEO tries pushing this button that says lower interest rates, because it's hard for mortgage companies right now with these high interest rates. There's not a lot of loans going on because a lot of people are staying in their homes because they don't want to move from a house when they have a 3% mortgage into another house with an 8% mortgage. That's probably going to be a smaller house for them. But what would have to happen for that button to work? Like, what circumstances do we need to look for that will indicate that these rates will come down?
Yeah, I mean, we are in uncharted territory here with rates having gone from incredible historic lows to now relatively high rates, and with 90+% of homeowners having locked in fixed rate mortgages. So, as you said, they don't want to sell.
Yeah,
So
I
would
mean,
say
Nikki Haley
that-
said at the debate that the average homeowner's age in the country right now is 49 years old.
Yeah, and someone taking out a $400,000 mortgage, it's over $1,200 more per month now than would have been a few years ago. That's not the total payment. That's the increase in payment.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
$1,200 a month extra because of the interest rates going up?
Yeah, so it's dramatic pinch that people are feeling.
Not
So I
just
think the
home
number-
loans. I mean, Aaron, car loans. I saw a statistic that said the average new car loan rate is nearly 14% in this country.
Oh, my gosh. So
Average.
car dealers are feeling the pinch, too, this year. Then, so, Aaron, what do we need to look for to, like, what needs to happen for this situation to go back to what we're used to? Or at least
I think
a more reasonable rate?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing is inflation has to go back down to 2%, which is what the Fed is trying to engineer, and that's why rates are high to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, you had this inflation that was generated in large part by completely excessive blowout government spending.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Fed was late to the party, but once they did, they started doing the thing that they do, which is they raise rates to try to combat the inflation. And it's been coming down. And once we really actually get to 2%, which we're not there yet, then I think markets will start to calm down and think, okay, the end is in sight even more than we think right now. And you'll see some of those kind of bond yields decline. So I think that's the biggest thing, is getting inflation down. Of course, if the economy does enter recession and the Fed has to combat that, that'll even more do that. But at the same time, I think if we want a healthy mortgage market, low rates are good, but low rates because of recession isn't necessarily that great either.
Right. Well, so in this article, it says that people had been hoping they would cut rates by March. Is that what you're talking about in terms of lowering the rates that would cause mortgage rates to go down?
Yeah, so I think the Fed controls essentially a short-term interest rate called the Fed funds rate. And I think that realistically next year, maybe they cut it by a half percentage point at some point over the course of the year, probably, in my opinion, closer to spring or summer. But that's just a half percentage point.
And would that
I think the bigger difference
would that result in a half point less on mortgages?
Not necessarily, because mortgages are based on more like 10-year treasuries. It's kind of longer-term thing. So there'd be a modest direct effect on mortgage rates, but I think the most important thing is the communication that the Fed sends. So if the Fed is signaling that even if they're only cutting rates a little bit in 2024, they're going to cut them a lot more in 2025 or 2026, that communication could actually drive down mortgage rates a lot. Because if you go back to 2022, the beginning of the year, the Fed actually didn't touch rates yet, but they just said, hey, the rate hikes are coming, and that's what caused mortgage rates to start spiking.
Oh, really? And John has a question for you as well. John Marsh.
Yeah, Aaron, you've talked to us so many times in the past, heck, going all the way back to the 80s with supply side economics and all that. What were the lessons learned there that could apply to 2023, 2024?
Yeah, well, the lessons that if the current White House had taken the lessons from the 1980s, they would have pursued a very different policy path. Starting with not passing the multi-trillion-dollar quote-unquote Rescue Plan Act in 2021, which was completely unnecessary. GDP had recovered and inflation was 2% or less, and that's really what kind of set off this whole inflationary spiral. But we are where we are, and if we were to learn those lessons now, the solution would be, again, to pare back on government spending. We do not need $2 trillion deficits, which are completely reckless. And if we pared back on government spending and we really unleash kind of a deregulatory wave and tax relief and all that, then we could get the economy producing more, and that would bring inflation down in a much less painful way.
Wow. That says to me is elections have consequences. Like Joe Biden winning the White House was a bad deal for America. Aaron Hedlund, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for joining us this morning on Wake Up in Missouri.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, guys, don't go away. We have to have a short break, but then we will be back with much more to say, including information. guest host, along with Taylor Burks, former Boone County clerk, and Hannah, the producer's here. John Marsh is down in Jefferson City, and John has we have this AG lawsuit with WashU to talk about, but first, we have some news out of Jefferson City that John Marsh is going to catch us up on. John.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird story that we picked up from our news partner, ABC 17. A Jefferson City man is now facing assault charges after being accused of pulling a knife on a guy who knocked on his door. He's identified as Julius Leonard. Police say the victim told them that he'd walked over to Leonard's house on Schrader Way last week to see if his girlfriend was there, and told the police that he knocked on the door, and here came Leonard with a knife. Man's girlfriend came out of the residence. The pair went back home. Police said that the suspect said the victim tried to assault him, but witnesses said that was not the case. So there's that story. See where that's going.
You can read between the lines on that one a little bit. Like the girlfriend then left and went home with the guy. So I wonder why the guy felt the need to pull a knife, right?
It sounds like a bad TikTok video.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say...
Sounds like a Jerry Springer episode or something.
Can you imagine just getting a knock on your door and it's someone there trying to stab you?
Like, who had the knife? The guy in the house or the guy?
No, I think the guy in the house was the one with the knife.
Yeah, when he saw him coming because he happened to have the girlfriend of that guy with him in the house.
Yikes.
It sounded like. Yeah, so you might want to be prepared if you're with someone's girlfriend and here he comes knocking on your door.
Well, don't answer the door.
Yeah.
He's lucky in Missouri it's just a knife and not a gun.
No kidding. Yeah, no kidding. What else is new, John?
Well, there's some traffic challenges, too. Folks in Jefferson City will find out it's a Tuesday bridge maintenance on Highway 54 over Stadium in Jefferson City. The on-ramp and the off-ramp there around Stadium. One lane of westbound traffic is going to be a mess tomorrow, but they should have it wrapped up by mid-afternoon in the capital city. So,
hopefully.
Famous last words,
Yeah, we've heard that before.
Yep. So there you go.
Well, we're lucky around here in mid-Missouri because they have rush hours in places I've lived up St. Louis or whatever. Here we have rush minutes, you know? Like, if you want to leave right at 5 from downtown Columbia, you might wait a few stoplights before you get through.
Oh, man, over the weekend.
We don't have a whole hour anywhere.
Over the weekend, I got a Snapchat memory notification. 4 years ago, the Wake Up family will remember this if they've been sticking around that long. I lost an entire wheel going down 63 in rush minute, as Jennifer called it. And it was interesting to say the least. Going 70 miles an hour and losing a wheel.
That happen?
And was your wheel going faster than you when you lost it? It's going down the road while you're stuck.
Yeah, luckily I was in the right lane because that is the direction that my tire flew. And it went down a hill. It was kind of near the stadium exit on 63.
What did you say on the radio that day, Hannah, that someone came and loosened all your lug nuts?
They were all sheared off, all of them. And my wheel, I just remember seeing it go flying into the ditch. That was a fun experience.
Well, you're still here with us, so you made it.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Wake Up family, we've been getting some texts this morning, which you're welcome to send us at 573-874-9390. We talked earlier in the show about these an anxiety room that they have at Beulah. Am I saying Beulah right?
Yep.
Elementary school, where if the kids are feeling stressed, they could just like go sit in a quiet room. We used to have to go to the principal. I didn't get sent, but I have 3
different
brothers.
Type
okay,
of,
so
different results.
Yeah. So, but one listener, Marissa, says these kids these days are so coddled and given so many second chances. Bad behavior is running rampant at school, and the administration's own policies created it. I do whatever I can to push my daughter out of her comfort zone. She goes to Taekwondo and never has competed in a tournament. I encouraged her to compete in the next one. She said she's nervous. I said, it's good to be pushed outside your comfort zone. She signed up to compete. It's our jobs as parents, as teachers, to push kids outside of their comfort zone. Amen. I agree with Marissa.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying to my son when we were at the theme park. It's life is full of times where you've got to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
And I agree with my friend who was like, if I hear that you went to the anxiety room again, you're in trouble.
Well, I wonder, too, if this anxiety room is more for the kids' benefit or the teacher's benefit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they have a kid that's acting out, like, they can, remove the kid from the classroom.
Yeah, that's true.
To
I
prevent.
thought you meant the
Be
teacher
something
wanted
like
to go
that.
to the anxiety room.
Back in the
I'm
day,
sure
they
some-
called it the teacher's smoking lounge, right?
I'm sure there's some kids that the teachers would like to send there, every day.
If there's a kid that's causing a disruption in the classroom, I think it would be beneficial to, remove them from the situation.
But don't call it an anxiety room then, because then
I
you're
see
like,
that.
oh, you're being disruptive. That means you're anxious, and we need to remove that.
Remember the news stories from a couple years ago with the accusations of the punishment rooms and isolation rooms that
Yep.
Boone
Yeah.
County schools had?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was like a tiny windowless
Yeah, they lock
room,
kids in a
basically.
closet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's which obviously we're against.
We are?
Well,
Yes, we are. That was a joke. It was a bad joke, but it was a joke.
Oh, man. So we're getting other texts, but quickly to this story about this lawsuit. So I'm sure you guys remember that transgender clinic that Wash U had at the Children's Hospital, no less, one of the premier children's hospitals in the country. We're seeing record numbers of kids getting trans treatment for gender dysphoria, to change their gender, especially middle school age girls. And this whistleblower who described herself as a queer woman to the left of Bernie Sanders, who's married to a trans man.
To the
she's-
left of Bernie
Yeah,
Sanders.
she's like politically to the left of Bernie Sanders, married to a trans man. So that means she's a lesbian, or is she still a lesbian in their mind? I'm not sure.
Probably pansexual, Jennifer.
But, yes. But is that meaning I'm running out of time? in Missouri alongside Taylor Burks, former Boone County clerk. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we are joined by Missouri Times publisher Scott Faughn. Scott usually comes on Mondays, and he's back again. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Good Monday morning. Thanks for having me. Good to talk to Taylor. I haven't seen you in a while, bud.
Scott, I saw you across the room at the governor's mansion for the tree lighting thing. My wife wanted to take the boys down, so I didn't expect to interact, but I saw you sooner than you've seen me.
You know what's great about that, the tree lighting and the things they do at the mansion? The Parsons actually would stand there all night.
The governor was there.
Want to see everybody.
He was there shaking hands, and yep, absolutely.
I've seen people go through that line at 9:30 at night, and they act like they're just happy to see the person that came through at 6. It is fun to. They're whatever you think about the governor's politics. They are two people that truly love to see folks come to that people's mansion. It is a nice thing to watch.
You're right.
Well, Scott, this story broke. We talked about it a little bit on Friday when Jacob Shelp was here.
Can I clear up one story from earlier that John had first? I did not know she had a girlfriend. I mean, that guy showed up with the knife. I had no idea what was going on.
He's referring.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, well, no problem. I just wanted to make sure my reputation was an appropriate amount sullied.
Well, Scott, this Missouri House Democrat was kicked off all of her committees for posting a photo with an alleged Holocaust denier. Did you see this? State Rep Sarah Unsicker of St. Louis County, she's running for Attorney General, and Crystal Quaid removed her from all of her committees for merely posting a picture of herself with a couple of guys that are allegedly Holocaust deniers, but the post itself didn't say anything anti-Semitic or it referenced the Holocaust in any way. So what do you know about this situation?
Well, I think, it would be so interesting to hear Brian Hauswirth describe Sarah Unsicker. Brian is so professional and nice. Sarah Unsicker, I'll try the white trash hillbilly description. She's a little different. She's a very, very intelligent person on public policy. Now, to be candid with you, a lot of times I don't agree with her conclusions, but she's a highly, highly intelligent lady and legislator. However, sometimes you can be too smart for your own good. You know what I mean?
But Jacob mentioned something like she's socially awkward, or is that?
I think that's fair to say. And she's always been very nice and professional to me. I have no ill will towards her whatsoever.
And I don't want to misquote Jacob. I don't know if he said that exact phrase, but it's something that indicated that maybe she's not the most. What? I'm sorry.
If Jacob said that, he's right. If you need somebody to say the facts, she is a little socially awkward. That's just a fact. These two guys are your conspiracy theorists. They're you're kind of Trump supporter. There's always something. If there's a problem, we'll tell you who to blame. Make sure it's not you.
But isn't that drastic to remove her from all of her committees when all she did was post a picture with guys that have said bad things in the past?
I know, having taken a number of photos with people, like if I'm held to account with everyone who stands next to me and posts a photo, you lose committee assignments, you lose
pretty severe.
Standing in a caucus. Like there's got to be more to it than just she posted a photo with some crazies.
They come up and said they were federal FBI informants, and I'll just tell you, if it is true that these are FBI informants, it kind of gives you some insight into why the FBI is in the shape it's in. She defended her right to be friends with them, and I'll say, but you got to say, it's like Robespierre. I mean, he sent a lot of folks to the guillotine. The woke eats their own. I mean, if you're woke long enough, it will come back and bite you. And she said silent while a lot of this silly woke stuff happened. And I'm sorry. Did anybody feel bad when Robespierre went to the guillotine? Does anybody feel bad when the woke eat Sarah Unsicker? I mean, I just think that woke. I agree with you, Taylor. It seems a little ridiculous, but I mean, if you sat by and watch other people's careers be eaten up by this silly woke ridiculousness, no one's going to feel too bad when your career is eaten up by it.
And we have Brian Hauswirth in the studio. I think he has a question for us.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. And I don't know, actually, two really quick questions. I don't know, does the speaker have any say on that, or can Leader Quaid do this on her own? And then I had a follow-up about Bob Onder, but I'm assuming the minority leader can remove Representative Unsicker on her own, or does the speaker have any say in this?
The speaker could weigh in. Normally, the speaker gives the floor leader sway. It's the one thing they do allow the floor leader to do is assign their own committees. And usually the speaker will let the floor leader decide who's on a committee. In this case, it would shock me if the speaker wants to weigh in and get in the middle of that. I think he'll probably give Minority Leader Quaid sway to do what she wants on it. And again, what's his problem? I mean, it's not like Dean Plocker woke and wanted to cancel everybody at the drop of a hat. So I think there's people that feel like the situation is a little extreme. I also feel like there's a lot of folks that are like, well, you sit there real quiet when all these other people were having when the woke was devouring Bob Burns for going on a radio show and all these other things that also seemed equally as ridiculous. You know, if you're going to sit there and let it happen to other people, don't whine when the woke eats you.
And Scott, yeah, and I've not seen a case quite like this I can't remember a member in recent memory being removed from assignments like this. But again, it's kind of
Bob Burns was on a radio show,
that's
promoting a charity for veterans.
I do remember.
And the woke ate him alive. And Bob Burns is a heck of a guy.
Did they remove him from all his committees?
I believe.
Kicked him out of the caucus.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago, but yeah, I do remember that. Scott, real quick, Senator Onder is going to make a quote unquote campaign announcement in Richmond Heights this morning. It sounds like Lieutenant Governor. That's what we're at least hearing. What's your sense? Can he win a statewide race?
Oh, 100%. I mean, he's making one of the announcements. I don't know how many announcements he's making today. He's making one at Missouri Right to Life today.
Yes, he
is.
And
we're going to go live stream that from the Missouri Times social media stuff. But he's going. He's in. I'll tell you, there's two things. One, the guy has a record. When you vote, he had two careers, right? He had one career where he was in Senate leadership, and him and Ron Richard, Mike Kehoe, Jay Watson, they were part of the crew leading a very effective Senate. He lost his leadership race. Then his record changed, and he voted no a lot, which in the modern day Republican Party, voting no is popular. He's got that the last 4 years to kind of run on. He can raise money. Bob is a very effective politician, especially for the current mood of the Republican Party. He leads with the attack, which is what Republican primary voters want. There's two kind of outliers. A lot of folks have the pedigree I just described. Bob Onder has a brother, Jim. When I say rich, is not even doing it right. Jim's wealthy. His big Christmas party's Thursday night for the Onder Law Firm. Jim had a couple cases specifically protected in state law. He owes his brother, and if I had to guess, Jim could fund that race and not miss the money. And I say fund the race, I mean multiple millions fund the race and not miss the money. Bob Onder's a successful man in his own right. Number two, he ran for St. Charles County Executive for a few weeks last cycle, and he dropped out at the end. He dropped out the last day of filing. Now, I don't exactly know why he dropped out, but there's a reason he was going to run and didn't run. Now, whatever that reason is, will be interesting to know as time goes by. Is that why that wasn't the right time and this is? I think is a question someone's going to ask him at one of the stops today. Why did you dip into that and then dip out? It could be Steve Ellman's an old pro. They put a provision on the ballot that said you had to be a full-time county executive, and he might want to have kept his physician's practice going. If you're lieutenant governor, it's, as Roger Wilson famously pointed out, it's a part-time job. He could continue to be a physician. So that might be why he didn't run last time and does run this time. But he's a formidable candidate. If Dean Plocker gets in, it's going to make it interesting. You have Holly Rader, wildly, wildly talented politician. She can raise the money. She's the best of any of the three delivering a message. You got that southern drawl that pulls at my heartstrings. I would say Holly Rader's the favorite if there's two guys in it. If it's just Onder and Holly Rader, that's a tougher match for her.
Thank you, Scott.
And John Marsh has a question for you, Scott.
Yeah, Scott, thinking back, we were talking about Unsiker and her committee assignments. We remember something that you guys sure reported last, 2022 session. Mike Moon in his overalls and lost his committee assignments over that deal.
Yeah, I happen to be a big Mike Moon fan, and we hillbillies have to stick together. But I know if he had his marble back, he would not have walked in the Senate chamber. I mean, the House chamber, look, the House is sort of for guns and abortion, to pick on gay people. It's not particularly serious all the time. The Senate's a serious place, and I think I like Mike Moon a lot. I love overalls. Anytime I interview Mike, I put my overalls on out of respect for the hillbilly culture. But he probably ought to have done that. In my mind, you could probably graffiti the House chamber, and it's not nearly as bad as wearing overalls on the Senate floor.
His filibuster at the time probably didn't help either, did it?
No, he had it primed up to where they were going to come down on him, and that's when you notice not even his own conservative caucus members could justify that move. That did not go over well.
Well, Scott, there's been a pre-filing of 1,028 bills and joint resolutions for an unusual pattern. The Senate has actually pre-filed more than the House. Topics to be considered during the 2024 legislative session include everything from the elimination of the personal property tax. Gary Nolan would love that. Property tax assessments, tax credit programs, sports wagering and video lottery terminals, foreign ownership of land, election and initiative petition reform, and a plethora of bills affecting local governments and elementary and secondary education. Is there anything that you and your reporters at the Missouri Times are particularly interested in following this section? We have about a minute left.
Oh, I think everybody's going to give sports betting another run, right? I mean, it's one of the things. I bet if we went to any place there in Columbia or Ashland or wherever, folks would actually care about sports betting. I don't really see how it happens unless something drastically changes. I think there's the VLTs, the slot machines you see in the gas stations that kind of locked up. But yeah, I think regular folks would like to be able to bet on sports. Mm-hmm. I think what you'll see is a lot of test runs at education bills, testing them out for next session. First year of a new governor, the charter folks will spend a lot of money getting their allies elected again. I think that bubble's going to burst. I think it'll burst next year. So I think you'll see a lot of test legislation, and then you'll see the Hail Marys. You'll see the things that are pulled out. You got a lot of seniors, folks leaving government. I think they'll try to pull that one more accomplishment off, and those are always dangerous times for the people of the state of Missouri.
Amen.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for joining us again this week, Scott Faughn at the Missouri Times, and you can find him on Twitter at, what's your handle?
It's at Scott Faughn. I don't have a clever one like you do.
Oh.
It's just my name.
Yours makes more sense. And yeah, ASQ on fire does not play off well on the radio. That's my Twitter handle.
And Scott's great at getting folks fired up on Twitter, so good follow over there.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
check
just
them
a
out.
little hillbilly common sense usually ticks off my suburban friends.
Are we calling it Twitter, not X?
Oh, excuse me. Out of respect for Elon Musk, I'll call it X.
It's actually worse. I'll just say it. It's worse since he bought it. I wish he would have never
And we're back. It's Jennifer Bukowski filling in along with Taylor Burks, and it's time for What's Hot with Hannah. Hannah, go.
Today is a very important day in what will be Missouri's history.
Oh, my goodness. What is it?
Taylor is with me on this. Jennifer, I don't know if you fully understand how important this is.
Explain it to me.
Springfield, they've been working on a big project over the last almost 4 years, and that has been the opening of Missouri's first Buc-ee's convenience store.
Yeah.
Why does it take 4 years to build a gas station?
Because it's huge. It's gigantic.
There's a new exit on 44. Like,
Yeah.
they had to do a bunch of infrastructure work. The governor went down there for the grand opening. Like,
the governor goes to all kinds of stuff, though. That's
There's
not
a
a
grand
bar
opening,
by
yeah.
which we measure historic events.
but for a gas station.
Right. Buc-ee's is kind of known for, to me, I've never been to one, but it seems like Buc-ee's is sort of a Walmart that's also a convenience store with gas pumps.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor, would you say that that's...
Oh, my gosh, I
that's
just
pretty
Googled
accurate.
it, and they're expecting, for Monday morning today, anticipate traffic backups because they're opening this gas station. It's a little badger is their symbol here. Like,
He's a beaver.
With big teeth, or a beaver with teeth, yeah.
Yeah, so
it looks
Buc-ee's,
like a cartoon. Yeah.
Buc-ee's is more of like a southern United States chain, and slowly working its way up through the Midwest. And I'm super excited next time I go down to Springfield to stop in.
Oh,
But
they even renamed the street, I bet.
Yes.
North Beaver Road. Where do you live? Beaver Road?
Nope.
The Springfield location itself is 53,000 square feet, and there are over 120 gas pumps at this location. It's open 24 hours a day, and as of 6 o'clock this morning, it is officially open.
What are they going to do when we go all electric, though, with all of those gas pumps?
Yeah, I was thinking that because everyone's like,
Good
I can't
point.
believe these slot machines in the gas stations. And I drive a Tesla, and I realized I don't know when the
don't even
last
go
time
in.
I've gone inside a gas station. Because even if I'm in with one of our other cars, we'd pay at the pump. But I'm going to have to go in and
Buc-ee's-
see these new casino rooms everyone's talking about.
Aren't they the ones who are famous for really weird flavored snacks and jerky and all that stuff?
I wouldn't be surprised. They're
Yeah,
also
I think they are.
They're sort of well known for their barbecue, which is kind of interesting for a gas station.
And
but
to
I've
come into Missouri and try to bring their game. Good luck, guys.
trying to bring Texas barbecue to Missouri, so
Well,
we'll see
beat
how
them
it
at
goes.
that.
But you said that there will be traffic backups, and I am 100% sure that that is true.
Wow.
It's a big deal.
Wow. And I've said something on the break. Apparently, there's a hot mic, and Hannah heard me. But I was channeling Stephanie Bell, catching up on my makeup. Jennifer Bukowski filling in with Taylor Burks. And I made a prediction over just before the last break that I think within our lifetimes, men will be doing a lot more like wearing makeup.
It'll be more like socially acceptable
to carry a purse. I don't understand why guys don't already carry purses. My husband wants to stick stuff in my purse. Like, where's your bag, dude? I don't want him carrying a purse for the record. But we got Brett says, no, just no makeup for this guy. I'm pretty, oh so pretty, just the way I am. Chuck, the truck driver, agrees with you, Hannah, that Buc-ee's is the greatest. I mean, what other store boasts a jerky bar? That's what I'm looking for.
A jerky bar, yeah.
David said, I was at Buc-ee's this weekend in Denton, Texas. I've been to a few Buc-ee's. It's way overrated. Sounds that way to me, too. But I guess I should reserve judgment till I go to a Buc-ee's myself.
You got to try it. Yeah, that's fair.
I've heard you should all go at least once just for the experience.
That's how they get you, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not too worried about it. But so last Friday, we had fun with this Am I the A story about the grandma who only bought presents for the kids of the poor daughter, not the rich daughter who married rich.
And said as much in front of the grandkids.
Yeah, so that was a wild story. I've got another one for you guys. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Am I the A for refusing to make vegan mashed potatoes? This woman normally hosts Thanksgiving potluck style. She does the turkey and mashed potatoes for about 40 people, and she doesn't mind, but she has got a younger brother who shows up empty-handed to every holiday. He doesn't even buy Christmas gifts for people. Well, there's 40 people because he's broke. That's fine, but it seems rude to the sister when everyone brings something, even if it's just a bottle of soda or wine. This year, he invited his girlfriend and demanded that he make part of the mashed potatoes vegan. Normally, she wouldn't care, but he doesn't do anything, so why should she make a special dish for his girlfriend? They have an older brother who makes like ham and Brussels sprouts, so it's not like they're taught men can't cook. So she told her brother, if you want vegan mashed potatoes, bring them yourself. Make your own. And he called her the B word and is threatening not to come to Thanksgiving or threatened not to come.
Oh, no.
And her mom felt they should try to work it out, but she wouldn't back down. So she asked, am I the A?
I think you're the a-hole if you force others to experience vegan mashed potatoes. Reminds me of the
you
Parks
like butter and milk in yours,
right.
I guess.
What's
I think
the point?
technically vegan mashed potatoes would just be called
potatoes. Yeah, what do they put in those? I guess some sort of like
bake him a baked potato and
like
ham
those
it to him.
vegan
Call
milk
it even.
things. Okay, they probably put vegan butter and milk or whatever.
Well, and I think if it was a smaller gathering, it would maybe be a little better to make the ask.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that hard if just you're at the final stage. Just put like a little bowl of them and mash them with a fork and just be like, here you go.
There you go. Exactly.
There's salt and peppered potatoes. Those are vegan.
I also think if you have a special dietary like request or requirement, you could also bring your own.
Bring it yourself.
That's
and that's
true.
what she's asking. She's not the a-hole. It's her brother's the a-hole.
I'm going to push back. on this.
Spicy.
Okay. I'm an older sister. And I don't look it, though. But no, I'm just kidding. I think that she needs to take into consideration his immaturity and people who are that age. Just like it sounds like he's like 18 to 22 years old.
Hey,
he's just now has a girlfriend.
Hey.
It's not worth it to cause family rifts over will you just set aside a cup of potatoes and whip them up and cause your brother not to come to Thanksgiving, cause your mom all of this heartache. Sure, their mom's probably not sleeping at night because the sister couldn't be the bigger person and just be like, fine, whatever, just put up with it. I think that she should have been the bigger person here. I'm not saying that she is the only one in the wrong. The brother's selfish, obviously. But let us know. We can send text to us at 573-874-9390.
A lot of drama.
Hey, someone
No
says...
kidding. I'd say just tell the girlfriend that, oh, yeah, those are vegan mashed potatoes. And just go on.
Oh, that's terrible.
Those are the best vegan potatoes she ever
That'd
had.
be a good Am I the A thing right there. Am I the A for telling my brother's girlfriend that these were the vegan mashed potatoes?
That's terrible, John.
What's the worst that's going to happen to her? It's not like she has a milk allergy or something.
Well, you don't know that. I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
That's funny. I like that idea.
Lactose intolerant. She goes running from the table to the bathroom, I guess.
I just think it's family relations are precarious, and I hate to see families fall out over something as trivial as this. And so if I were this girl's friend, and I do host big groups, not 40, that's impressive, wow, but I would encourage her to just like put up with the younger brother. Like, oh, he feels broke and whatever. He doesn't want to be adulting yet, I guess. And the girlfriend he has is annoying, but he's pretty young. It's his first girlfriend. He's going to like, that is just the age where they'll be like, it's us against the world. And they'll stop showing up to stuff.
They'll elope and do other stupid stuff.
It's funny because you mentioned that the sister was saying that the brother could at least bring like a bottle of soda or something like that. In my family, my dad was the ice and soda guy for family functions for quite a while, and I think he's slowly passing the torch over to my 20-year-old brother.
Yeah.
And my brother's starting to wear that as a badge of honor. Like, yep, I'm the ice guy. I'll show up with ice.
Yeah, this sister could have had a conversation in advance to be like, hey, how about napkins? Can you bring Can you handle napkins?
Yeah.
Can you bring some napkins? Like, there are easier things that are not expensive that he could do to contribute, but to just all of a sudden then lose it over this. Did you have conversations before this happened, before you got, and you get stressed out getting ready for the holidays. I understand that. Like, I sent a snappy text to a friend of mine, like, I can't help you with this right now. I'm getting ready for a Thanksgiving of 18 people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we could say that there was probably an overreaction on both sides.
Yeah. And so maybe nobody is, but yeah, if you have any thoughts on it, text us. In the meantime, we also have some good news out of the Boone County court system. There are now going to be defendant-friendly pro se forms. Pro se is when someone represents themselves, and all the forms are always geared for, like, in landlord-tenant situations for the tenant. Well, now, thanks to Associate Circuit Court Judge Kayla Jackson-Williams, who's a friend of mine. She's been on
Kayla's
this program.
Awesome.
She led an effort along with Mid-Missouri Legal Services to create forms that are friendly for defendants who are getting sued by their tenants who don't want to leave. And I think that's good because not every landlord's like Mr. Moneybags for Monopoly. Like a lot of them just have saved up pennies and nickels to have a duplex that they're just for extra money and trying to build their wealth. And so it's not like they have a whole lot of extra money to lay out for attorneys to defend them when they have challenging tenants. So kudos to her.
Well, especially with rising mortgage interest rates, harder and harder to be a landlord if you have any sort of loan on your property. So good for her.
Definitely. And in other news, there's a 17-year-old who passed the bar and somehow might be prosecuting your case. We'll have to talk about that. How much time do we have before the break? Are we doing okay?
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Okay, so this 17-year-old passed the bar. He's the youngest person in California history to pass the bar exam, according to the county district attorney's office, where he now works. That's what grabbed my attention here. At 13, his friends were finishing 8th grade. Peter Park was starting law school. A year later, law school normally takes 3 years, okay? A year later, he was finishing freshman year's finals by day and passed his first major law school exam by night.
Wow.
And this past July, he took the bar exam, and now he beat the previous record holder who did so at 18 years old. But he's working at the district attorney's office.
How old was he when he went to law school?
13.
Oof.
Wow.
Did he pass on his first try?
Oh, yeah.
Because doesn't it take a couple tries sometimes?
Not for me.
Well,
My lesson here is law school can't be that hard. I don't know.
Well, this kid's very bright and book smart, but the thing is, this is not well known. People always get mad at judges. The lowliest prosecutor in the district county attorney's office or whatever, they call it a deputy. He's a deputy district attorney, has more power than the presiding judge. They get to decide who to whether or not to charge, what charges to bring, whether to make a plea deal. They really wield enormous power over people's lives. And while this kid may be very book smart, does he know enough about like how family dynamics work or just life to be making decisions about the outcomes of people's lives at that age? I I don't
can't
know.
even vote yet, and
Yeah, you
he's
can't vote.
deciding. Yeah, but you're right.
Can't smoke. Can't get a
Shouldn't
tattoo.
smoke. Let's be clear.
Shouldn't get a tattoo either,
Right,
in my
yeah.
opinion. He could get change his gender though in California if he
Hey,
wanted
go
to.
to Wash U. They'll do it for
Yeah.
you. Real
Well,
snappy.
I'm sure they could take care of him out there, but I don't know. This makes me uncomfortable. This story, but that's interesting. Good for him for getting that accomplished. I guess he didn't care about having a childhood at all or playing outside with friends, but not everyone does.
What was his name? Is it in the article?
Peter Park.
Peter
Very
Park.
close to Peter Parker.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, maybe he also has a secret identity as a crime
I was going to
fighter.
say he's going to use his spidey sense in the courtroom.
Yeah, I bet that was his favorite superhero growing up. That was my kid's favorite superhero, Spider-Man. Oh, man. So, and that Virginia Democrat that got in trouble right before the election because she was live
Sex tape.
streaming
Oh, yeah.
sex with her husband for coins or clicks or whatever, she claims that she's the victim. Can you believe this?
Is that what the tape shows, or?
Well, she says that she's the victim because when she was streaming online, it was private to the people she was live streaming to that were like subscribed to her channel and giving her
like a
tokens and
paywall?
clicks and all this. And that it was recorded and Republican operatives recorded it and distributed it around. But my thing is, this wasn't something you did at 17. This was something that you did at 40 years old and a year later ran for office.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that it's our business what you do in your bedroom, but this is something that you at 40 thought was smart to do a year before you run for office and stream on the internet. You could have foreseen that someone could record that
She
stuff.
really screwed herself.
Like everyone's
I'm here all week, folks.
if they're paying to
She took money
watch
for
this,
it.
they're going to be screen capturing it because they might want to, I don't know, enjoy that experience again. Like that is a foreseeable thing. So
Yeah, that's.
I hate that she's like calling herself a victim and saying that these people committed crimes.
Well, she's uncomfortable, so.
Well, she lost her race. Even
Hope she
though,
doesn't run up against a 17-year-old prosecutor.
Oh,
He can't even view the evidence.
yeah, that's true. Oh my gosh. All right, so
That would be all, except for this.
You might call these guys pot thieves. Literally, 4 men charged over the theft of an 18-karat golden toilet from a palace in southern England, where it was kept as an art exhibit after an early morning heist. The fully functioning toilet was worth 4.8 million pounds, which is $6 million. It weighed 225 pounds, and it was on display at Blenheim Palace. The cops in England said the guys apparently showed up at 5 a.m. in the morning with 2 vehicles and took the toilet, named America by the artist.
Oh.
This is Blenheim Palace, which is the birthplace and ancestral home of Winston Churchill. And one of the cops said maybe they'd gotten their thrones confused. There's no word on this if maybe their next stop was Shoji Tabuchi's theater in Branson to go after his golden fixtures in his bathroom. So now you know the rest of that story. If anybody tries to sell you a golden toilet, you might be suspicious.
So they got away with it?
Apparently so.
Wow.
That is a lot of gold.
225-pound toilet.
$6 million worth of solid gold.
I was going to say, do you try to melt it down and, sell the gold that way, or do you just try to sell the whole toilet again?
You don't want to get caught.
True.
You probably want to melt that puppy down because how many solid gold toilets are going to be on the market,
That's true.
Why is it named America? That rubs me the wrong way.
Rude.
Some Italian artist, conceptual artist, they called him, and he named it America.
Talk about a royal flush.
There you go.
Jelly. They're jelly of America. That's why. Haters going to hate on America.
Yeah, and also I'm just thinking logistically, stealing a toilet seems like it would be clunky and awkward, and you think you'd get caught. But maybe not.
That'd be heavy. That'd be heavy.
It feels like, people don't pay attention to plumbers or tradesmen. It feels like it was, made for a movie, this escapade to steal a toilet.
Yeah, it does.
Mario and Luigi mustaches pasted on. That's definitely how they did it.
Coming up, obviously, through the sewer to break in, right?
Oh,
I could see it.
Well, there it is, in a nutshell, so to speak.
In a nutshell. All right. Well, we had other stories that we've been trying to get to, and what were they? Taylor, help me out here. We have all kinds of stuff to talk about next hour about these college presidents are resigning or being asked to resign. Elon Musk let Alex Jones back on X.
Yeah.
I did
And
see that.
also joined a live chat thing with him over the weekend. So he had said, yes, we're going to continue this permanent ban. He changed his mind and let Alex Jones back. It was suggesting that I follow Alex Jones this morning on my X, and I did not yet. But there are a lot of free speech implications involved with a lot of these stories with regard to the college presidents, the testimony to Congress by these college presidents, and they have gotten some resignations, so we're going to get into all of that. And the Wisconsin Board of Regents rejected a GOP Assembly funding deal that would freeze DEI initiatives and require a free speech introductory course for freshmen. So lots going on with these college campuses. But the big problem, I think, why are these university presidents ever weighing in on a news story anyway? They're not the president of the United States. You're the president of a college. George Floyd dies. Why did they all have to say anything about it at all?
Moon Choi would never.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know that. I mean, I don't know if Mizzou said anything about that, but they seem to this really came to bear with that. So then other things come up and they're like, well, what do you think about this? And that's not really their job. Why do I care what a university president thinks about things?
Didn't this really start in here at Mizzou, 2015, the concerned student, 1859, when they ousted Tim Wolf, what was that, 8 years ago? And since
Kid
then,
on the hunger strike.
Yeah, chancellors and university presidents are demanded by faculty and left-leaning students to,
Burks, former Boone County
Not
Circuit
Taylor
Clerk.
Swift.
Not
Yeah,
Taylor
sorry
Swift.
to disappoint everyone.
It's not Tay-Tay, not on the Chiefs. But so last week there was a congressional hearing over anti-Semitism, and 3 college presidents were testifying at that committee. Elise Stefanik was, by a lot of accounts, the star of that hearing, and SNL, Saturday Night Live, decided to do a skit that was just so hilarious. I was rolling on the floor laughing. It was just so funny, or not.
Not.
Here is a quick clip from it that was arguably the only almost funny part of the whole cold open skit from Saturday.
The chair recognizes gentleman from Michigan.
Thank you. I yield my time back to Ms. Stefanik.
Damn it! I am here today because hate speech has no place on college campuses. Hate speech belongs in Congress, on Elon Musk's Twitter, in private dinners with my donors, and in public speeches by my work husband, Donald Trump. So, Dr. Gay, simple question.
The chair.
That skit came out just hours after there was a resignation by the Penn president over the reaction to anti-Semitism and her testimony in Congress last week. Donors felt like she was not clear enough that she thinks calls for genocide of Jews are wrong and would violate the student code of conduct. But to be fair, the Harvard president, who I'm no big fan of, Claudine Gay, said it depends on the context. If they're just college kids saying from the river to the sea, yes, that's actually a call to eliminate the Jews from Israel. But are these kids smart enough to even know that? What do you think, Taylor?
Oh, I doubt it 100%.
Yeah.
I think that hearing what a lot of college students think and the 1-inch depth of knowledge that they have on the issues.
Ask them what river,
Which river?
what sea, and what other countries are they living? The Jews just going to synagogue peacefully. None of them. That would be. So I don't know that all of these kids, how do you define calling for genocide? So I do think that the context is important, and I'm torn on this one too because I'm a free speech absolutist. And I think it's good to know who these people are. Let them say.
Yeah, expose the ideas.
Yeah.
Debate go through the logic and the discourse and expose bad ideas with free speech. Don't cover it up. Don't silence that. There's no benefit to that because then that's where you create the conspiracy theorists of maybe they're speaking the truth. Maybe there is something to what this person said. And this whole country, and Jen, you and I agree on this issue wholeheartedly. This country was founded on those principles because of the power of logic and reason and good ideas to come to the fore.
Yeah. So if there is harassment of Jewish students, like they're having to hide because there's threatening behavior, obviously that's going to be a violation of a code of conduct. There should be discipline. But like I said before the break, they had gotten a bad habit of thinking that the world needs to know their opinion on different news stories as they occurred. That's not the university president's job to weigh in on George Floyd or whatever else.
Right. There's a university statement for everything that comes out, everything that rises to a news article or level of national attention. And so I think that we're on the same page too. Why are these university presidents becoming commentators on every national issue that comes up?
And you represent a huge campus filled with professors and students that aren't all going to agree on some controversial news story. So the best thing would be to just not weigh in with an official university letter with their position, because you're not going to really be reflecting 100% of your people, and to stay out of it. And
be an administrator.
Unless it's happening on your campus.
Do your job. Be an administrator. Run the campus. Don't be, diversity on campuses is only appreciated unless it's diversity of thought, in which case you have to conform to the party line when it comes to faculty and staff.
Yeah, and we're overvaluing diversity. Victor Davis Hanson pointed out, unity is important too. And a lot of this DEI stuff has done nothing but divide people, unfortunately. So anyway, Brian Hauswirth sitting here patiently, but I had to get those thoughts off before we get back to our other stories. What's going on, Brian?
I think we're waiting on some murder charges could or could not be filed this morning involving a Columbia murder suspect, this Williamson, for a murder that happened on either Friday night or late Friday night or early Saturday morning. We're not sure when the victim actually died. His name is John Williamson III. The woman who was killed, 27-year-old Azaria Brownlee. Don't know how she was killed. We know from our news partner, ABC 17's Stephanie Andre, that she left behind a daughter, and they released purple balloons for her yesterday. Red Weir is closing in Columbia. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that. People are already weighing in on our 93.9 The Eagle Facebook page. But honestly, guys, I think, and maybe it's good because we've had just some awful news this weekend with the murder, and I was in court Friday with the fentanyl murder suspect. What I think I see people talking about right now is the Chiefs game yesterday between the Chiefs and the Bills, and Mahomes just really was upset. I got to tell you, and I'm sure some of our fans won't appreciate it. I'm just going to call it straight down the line.
Ooh.
Kadarius Toney was offsides, folks. And there is no question about that. You can argue whether or not Von Miller should have been called or this and that, but he was, and he shouldn't have been. And but some fans will come back and say, well, they didn't call it both ways. Maybe so, but it's a shame. And Mahomes was very, very upset. CBS on their television broadcast yesterday, Nance said something like, has he lost control of the team, talking about Andy Reid. What was a little misleading about that is it almost looked like Mahomes was yelling at his teammates, but he was actually yelling at an official. But, whether or not you see it a lot of times, I'm going to tell you, that was an offside. His foot was on the blue line, and
now,
just
Brian,
a real shame.
What do you think of the folks saying that there's usually a warning for that type of call before they throw the flag?
I've never heard of such a thing about a warning. In fact, a lot of fans haven't. Mahomes said that they used to doing that, and I saw a lot of surprise to that. If that's the case, I mean, they don't know. I've never heard of such a thing to give a warning on that. The referee through the pool in Gene, I can't think of his last name, Gene, the rules expert, Hannah, that was on the telecast yesterday, which is really good to have him there. He I believe he called it egregious. I think it's probably a little strong. I don't know if it was egregious, but he appeared to be offside.
And it was such a bummer because they went on to have such a cool play. We saw a lateral pass from Travis Kelce.
Yes.
And it ended up not counting, and it was a bummer.
Yeah, it was.
Andy Reid did pipe up after the game and said he was upset that they didn't get a warning about Toney's potentially being offside.
And can we talk about how Travis Kelce threw a perfect spiral?
Oh, that was a heck of a throw to Toney. And some people, and guys are bringing up some very good points. Kadarius Toney's taken some heat, too, online from Chiefs fans are saying cut him or whatever. And one former player actually said, maybe, and he's not being facetious, maybe get his eyes checked. I mean, it could be that he has an eye problem. I don't know, but you gotta, as a receiver, you gotta be just mindful of that. But it does seem like that is getting a lot of attention. The Chiefs can still win the division. I think they're going to go to the playoffs. We'll just see what happens. But in my opinion, Kadarius Toney was offsides.
Well, I have very strong thoughts on that because I totally understand what offsides means in football, but I'll have to reserve my opinions because they're too controversial. But we do have a caller who wants to weigh in.
Sure.
Sam is on line one. Sam, welcome to the show.
Well, good morning. I'm certainly not the level of athletic supporter that Brian is. But that being said, is it time to think about maybe benching Mahomes and starting Blaine Gabbert?
I don't know.
Of course, I'm tongue-in-cheek.
Sure.
Yeah. But, we moan and groan. We've had, two Super Bowl victories?
Yeah.
You lose a few games. Hey, I'm a football Cardinal fan.
Yes.
I remember when Billy Bidwell took the Cardinals to the desert in 1987.
Yep.
So to have anything better than watching the Cardinals get beaten year after year after year after year is, we need to just kind of rein it in a little bit.
Absolutely. You're spot on. And those were some good teams with Jim Hart and Mel Gray and Roy Green. And, you bring up some great memories, my friend.
I heard him call you an athletic supporter, which
I did also hear
wasn't lost on us.
Yeah, exactly. Don Correa. Yeah, and I think he brings up a good point about being appreciative. But there are, and you don't win every game. You don't.
That's right.
You don't. But it is. Love
Especially
Mahomes.
when Taylor Swift took all the time to be there.
Yeah.
Her record is sullied now, too, after yesterday.
And some people are complaining about her, but I
love it.
People love to complain about successful women.
Yeah,
it's nothing new.
It's successful tailors in general. We stand in solidarity.
Yeah.
I am willing, though, for the Chiefs to test my own luck if they want to bring me out, put me in a box, see if I can get their streak back.
Exactly. But Mahomes had what people forget is he had a tremendous career at Texas Tech. And I did all his scoreboards down at Learfield out of Jefferson City. And he wasn't all that successful in college. As a team, as a player, he put up some incredible numbers, but they'd lose games 70-60. They had no defense, 65-60. So he lost games, but I don't ever remember him being that angry that I saw last night. Maybe it was the camera angle, but we'll see. Bottom line is, you move on and think about the next game, but people are certainly talking about that. And I'll tell you what, this Columbia protest, Jen, you mentioned it, the teachers union.
Yeah,
I still don't quite understand. Taylor, you weighed into. I don't understand what that was all about, because they've done this before. This is not
coming
the
up
first
tonight, right?
Well, I don't know when they're going to protest, but they have done. This is the second time they've tested a system at Hickman, and they're going to be doing that here in about 15 minutes again. So we'll see. But I take it the union is upset with, or maybe disappointed. I'm not sure, with the administration.
But it's a weapons detection system.
That's
and
it.
The teachers are upset about.
I don't know exactly what their beef is.
I would say, and Jen hit this on the head to start with, if you are protesting and people don't know what you're protesting, maybe it's an ineffective protest.
Maybe they don't know what they're protesting.
We're just mad.
Yeah. It is bizarre. Like, that's not a normal
Yeah, it looks like stocks are opening up pretty mixed, slow week on Wall Street while we wait for the Fed final Fed meeting of the year where they will decide to keep interest rates where they've been. We also see that the SEC is continuing their conversation with these Bitcoin exchange traded funds. They met with Fidelity on Friday. BlackRock, Grayscale, a number of applicants for these exchange traded funds, which has been the mover behind Bitcoin over the last couple of months. A pretty significant fall in Bitcoin last night and this morning, down over 5% when it was approaching around $44,000 per Bitcoin. So not a whole lot expected on Wall Street after a solid labor report on Friday. And that's where we are right now.
Well, bad news. 4.5% on Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking this weekend about how it was so up, but I think it's a long-term good bet. You need to have patience with it, though.
That's the thing, and I think a few times when I've been on a guest for like Travis Fitzwater when he's done this show, Brandon and I used to talk about crypto occasionally. It's one of those things like it's swingy, it's volatile, but when it comes to a decentralized commodity, Bitcoin is digital gold, and you're going to see as it gets adopted, as it gets used, that it's going to have these days where it goes up and it goes down by quite a lot, but over the long-term horizon, it's up substantially.
I still don't fully understand it, to
That's
be honest.
Yeah. I tell people, if you don't always hold your physical dollars, you just see your bank account, but you trust that your bank has those dollars there. And as Bitcoin matures, people are going to trust that the science or the technology behind it is solid, even if you don't understand everything.
And the draw is unlike money where they just keep printing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a limited amount.
It's finite.
It's finite. And so it's kind of like gold in that way where it's finite.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't have to worry about a government printing a bunch more and making the dollars you have less valuable. Taylor, you also posted into our show notes an interesting story out of the University of Wisconsin System Board of Regents. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about free speech in college campuses, and I came across a story over the weekend. In Wisconsin, their assembly, their state legislature, is controlled by Republicans, but their governor's a Democrat and appoints the Board of Regents. They were holding funding for the university steady, had come to an agreement with the administrators that they would give them their next stepped increase for the University of Wisconsin if they stopped hiring more DEI administrators and required incoming students to take a free speech class. Seems like pretty common sense stuff. And the Board of Regents at the University of Wisconsin said, we don't want more money. We would rather keep spending more on these diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and not require our incoming students to have free speech courses in exchange for taking a cut from the legislature. So, to our point, what we were talking about before, that these administrators are kind of beholden and stuck to the woke culture of the left. It's happening where they're turning down funding for their core mission, which is to teach liberal thought and classical liberal thought on college campuses.
Well, just to play the devil's advocate on that, they said it's a shame that they've denied employees their raises and almost $1 billion investment Husky filling in alongside Taylor Burks, our former Boone County Circuit Clerk. Got this crazy story to tell you about involving a man. Prosecutors agree he shot the man in self-defense, but they're still trying to put him in prison. We'll tell you why, because of his unlicensed gun. So frustrating. But first, I see Brian Hauswirth is in with more news updates.
Yeah, we do. No charges yet, Counselor and Taylor. It's good. You're doing a fine job. Good to have you with us
thanks.
here, as always.
High praise.
Absolutely. No, you're doing a great job, as always. Waiting on charges. We don't have a real time frame on this. Expect them sometime, I would assume, today. This involves the murder that took place on Typhoon Court on Friday evening or early Saturday. I'm a little unclear on that. From the limited information CPD has released, we do know it is a woman who was killed. She is 27-year-old Azaria Brownlee. She has a daughter, and right now there is, according to Effany Andre, our news partner at KMIZ, who's done a fine job over the weekend covering this. There's an effort underway on GoFundMe to help pay for her funeral expenses to bury her, and just an absolutely awful story. The folks that know her describe Ms. Brownlee as a beautiful soul. This is according to what they told Effany Andre yesterday, characterized by her caring nature, her love for her daughter. And they released purple balloons into the air. The Reverend James Gray, who's a longtime listener to our show, was there and who spoke, talked about the violence, talked about what this woman apparently went through, just absolutely horrible. From all indications, Jen and Taylor, this does appear to be domestic violence. I don't know the details. We'll get to those specifics once charges are filed. But the fact that they are seeking first-degree murder charges, Counselor, you know better than anyone, that leads me to believe they believe there's evidence it was premeditated. By the way, one other note. He is not in the jail, which is interesting, and could be in the hospital. We don't know, but he is. So that
or in the interrogation room.
Well, I don't know if he's going to be arraigned today or how that's going to work, but he is definitely not, at least at this point, in the jail. But a horrible, horrible case.
That is sad. 27 is way too young, obviously, and no one should be homicided, allegedly.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank
terrible.
you for that update,
Thank you guys.
though.
You guys have a great rest of the show.
Yes.
See you, Brian.
Thank you, sir.
So this is a story out of Reason, and I'm glad to live in Missouri when I read stories like this because LaShawn Craig may spend years behind bars because the gun he used to justifiably shoot someone was unlicensed. A New York City man is facing several years in prison after killing someone who'd broken into his apartment. But perhaps most interesting is that at his arraignment last month, prosecutors did not dispute that LaShawn Craig acted in self-defense when he fatally shot Timothy Jones. Instead, they hit Craig with several charges related to criminal possession of a weapon because he did not have a license for the handgun he used to protect himself.
Which is not is this America? Do we not have a Second Amendment? And
you were a potential victim. Someone breaks in, so you decide to not be killed to defend yourself. Better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Maybe a jury would nullify on this, but this is going to be a hard thing to beat because it's an easy case for the prosecutor when they have laws like this. Did he have a gun? Yes. Did he admit having a gun? Yes. Was it licensed? No. Case closed.
Well, this is what you said. The prosecutor has enormous power to be the gatekeeper of who even goes into
they could have been
courtroom.
This guy wasn't doing any criminal activity with his gun.
Yeah.
We can let this one go and do some sort of deferred arrangement and be like, okay, we have your gun. You're not getting your gun back.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let us see you with an unlicensed gun again and let it go. But instead, they have charged him and arraigned him on charges that could see him behind bars for several years.
Like you said, thank God I live in a state where you don't have to license your rights with the state and let them know. Presumably he's not a felon or a former convicted felon who has restrictions.
Yeah, they're
on
saying unlicensed gun, not felon in possession of a gun in this article at least. So
yeah.
And the guy that he killed had over 20 prior arrests for grand larceny, robbery, and domestic violence, among other convictions. Well, that is something. Oh, gosh. It was a busy, fun weekend this weekend. Back to Missouri. But one thing I did, we're going to go scuba diving. So we're on the verge of getting certified. All we have left to do is open water, but we went to practice with their equipment at the Hickman pool. Have you been in the Hickman?
I have not.
High school swimming pool. Have you, Hannah? Hickman High School?
I have not.
Well, there are many places that you might want to be able to relax underwater and look at everything that's in the water and observe its beauty. I would say that Hickman High School swimming pool is not one of those places.
Isn't it old?
There's
Isn't
nothing
it like
pretty in there.
Oh gosh, I remember there when I was in high
There's
school.
stuff floating around in there that you're
and it
swimming
wasn't the
through.
Bukowskis.
So I'm like wondering, what is that? Is that cardboard? Is that
Oh no!
something more nefarious?
I've seen
what is
Caddyshack
floating in the pool right now that I'm swimming through, and I have like 2 hours to get ready for my husband's company Christmas party when I get home. So yeah, definitely had to shampoo twice after getting out of that pool. That was my weekend. Fun, busy weekend though. But we were talking on the break about this, Taylor. Mitt Romney, he's kind of a mixed bag sometimes, but he came out over the weekend and torched Hunter Biden for claiming that he was a victim, according to Daily Wire. He said over an interview this weekend that he benefited from his father's last name. That's why Hunter Biden said, well, if it wasn't for my last name, I would never have been charged. And Romney responded, well, if his name were anything other than Biden, he wouldn't have been able to bilk millions of dollars from foreign entities, so let's start there.
Right.
Was he really bilking? I don't know.
I mean, they willingly paid him millions of dollars because of his last name.
Yeah, it wasn't bilking them out like I'm scamming you.
Yeah.
That's Romney is like presuming that Biden, the dad, Joe Biden, had nothing to do with this whole thing.
And these aren't reputable companies that are, U.S.-based multinationals. These are Burisma, Chinese firms overseas that Hunter Biden made those connections after hitching a ride on Air Force Two. So these are not
multiple times. But here's what Romney said: he has not seen any evidence that President Biden has committed high crimes and misdemeanors. When they asked him about the impeachment inquiry, and he said, "Look, fortunately for most people, we're not responsible for the misdeeds of our kids and grandkids and great grandkids. Nothing in my family I'm embarrassed about, but President Biden's son Hunter has obviously been a very unsavory person and has had some extremely damaged personal foibles, including a drug habit and so forth. That's not President Biden, and we're not going to impeach someone because of the sins of their kids." Why is it not President Biden if there are payments that are going back and forth? And like, even if he isn't directly paid, he's obviously been in on the dinners and flying the son around and providing money to your whole family, none of whom seem to have a real job, by the way.
Right.
That is a benefit to President Biden himself, like his largesse in being able to provide income to all of his family.
Well, and he's been the biggest defender of who Mitt Romney says is an unsavory character. Joe Biden defends Hunter Biden every turn.
The smartest guy he's ever met.
And when you're the big guy and take your cut, but we're not allowed to ask questions. That's pretty telling about the D.C. swamp that Mitt Romney lives in.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think there's so many ways that the big guy could be getting his cut. There were indications from the laptop that Hunter was paying for repairs on Joe's Rehoboth Beach house. Like, there are ways besides, here's a check with memo from Chinese oligarch
from China
dad
to big guy.
Yeah, a tip for the big guy for your participation in setting up that relationship after my flight on Air Force Two. Like, there are ways that he could get financially benefited. And the fact that all of these relatives, 10 relatives they're looking at now that got different
The Biden
monies?
crime family. I don't know how many are in it.
That's a benefit to you, that your whole family is enriched from your position and you're using the name Biden to make that happen. It's so third world and embarrassing that these people are in the White House right now. What are your thoughts, Anna?
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a bleep show. I don't know if I can fully express how I'm really feeling, but it's the Hot Mess Express. And
Hot Mess Express, yeah.
All you can really do is laugh, because I'm just to that point of not knowing what else to do.
Shake my head. I mean,
yeah, lots of head shaking this year.
fortunately, we get another presidential election year next year. So all those ads, all those phone calls. But Barack Obama taught us this. Elections have consequences, and we're living in one of those consequences now.
And have we seen Obama out there endorsing Biden? He barely did it last time, very reluctantly. Like, what does Obama know that we see, obviously? But I think that's an interesting dynamic right there. It seems like his people are running things, but he doesn't seem to be a big Biden fan.
Only time you see him is when he's out in the surf on his paddleboard anymore.
Hey, when I'm retired, I hope to have access to those resources and do what I want when I want.
Certainly, yeah. But I think it's interesting how he does weigh in on some things, but he wasn't really on the trail for Biden, and he's not pushing him now. But he doesn't have a primary, really.
Well, Mitt Romney was the guy who just said the other day he wouldn't rule out voting for Biden. So it's like,
of course,
okay,
Romney said that.
2012 wasn't bad enough on you there, I guess, Mitt. But
yeah,
whatever, huh?
Wow. Well, they are flooding Cambridge with billboards demanding for the Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard, to step down. And she has not so far, unlike the Penn president. But fire Gay. Fire Gay. It sounds, oh, gosh, that last name must be something else to go through. Dr. Gay is her name.
Oh, no.
So I served in the Navy for a number of years. I had a sailor whose last name was Gay, and heard all the jokes on his behalf or for him. I always feel bad for somebody that gets stuck with that.
Well, there's a judge on the Southern District Court of Appeals, Jennifer Grocock.
Yeah.
I'm like, if Brant's last name had been Grocock, I'm not sure whether or not I would have switched my last name to Jennifer Grocock.
Well, think of the Chiefs football player. It's Willie Gay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that is a last name, but one that you're always going to have thick skin and just take the jokes. Everyone's going to comment on that.
But
it's like
Fox
big
News was
6'9" or whatever. People Circuit Clerk Taylor Burks. And before we hand it over to Gary Nolan, the one and only, we're going to wrap things up on some of these stories. Taylor, what is next on our plate?
Yeah, we were talking about the MIT and Harvard president calls for their resignation after their testimony. And so pretty still dealing with the fallout from their congressional testimony.
So let me ask you, though, is that cancel culture? Like they said they testified last week. They didn't like the way that they testified and the way that they've been handling the pro-Palestinian protesters. So you're calling for them to be fired. That was a movement that was started on the left, canceling and firing people on the right. And we complained about cancel culture. Is it cancel culture to call for the resignations of these college presidents?
Yeah, and you and I were talking about this over the break too. Like, I think that when you are speaking for an institution and your donors say you don't represent the views that I'm giving to the institution for, I don't want to support that thought. I don't want to support your leadership in the area. I think that that's a reasonable thing, at least a market-based movement to align leadership with donor values. And in this case, like if you are allowing anti-Jewish protests calling for genocide on your campus and can't speak against that, that's something that I'm willing to say, hey, you know, you can have that opinion, but you can't be the president of this institution if I'm going to give you $100 million or whatever those numbers are. And the other thing, I mean, Scott Faughn said it earlier, this is the left eating the left. Jewish donors and voters in America overwhelmingly support Democrats and liberal policies. And this is an area where Democrats and liberal policies are not aligning with values of the Jewish community in America or globally. So this is what comes around whenever you elevate that reaction to any opinion that you don't agree with.
Yes, I would agree with that. But like I would need to know more context. To be fair, Claudine Gay said I would need to know more context whether it violates the code to call for the genocide, because if you're just chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine must be free, that is in actuality saying eliminate the Jews from Israel. But the chant itself on the surface level isn't calling for the death of anyone. And if you're not well informed on like that Middle East area and the freedom of religion that's not enjoyed by anyone else in that whole region, you might not understand that if that were to occur, that would result in the elimination of the Jews. But they're assuming that, everyone can be free to move about all of the entire area of Israel without giving them Gaza or whatnot, and it can be fine in peace and harmony and have multiple religions there like we do here.
Not what's going to happen over there, and college students don't have any awareness of what that is.
Do you think that when they're chanting that they realize that or like understand or agree with it?
Call for genocide, yeah. And I think, was it Rashida Tlaib from Michigan who tweeted from the river to the sea and got a huge amount of blowback from pro-Israeli or just, I think, reasonable people who recognize
everybody from Chuck Schumer on down.
Yeah, absolutely. And not dissimilar from like these neo-Nazi tattoos or symbols that if you don't know that 8/8 is a reference to Adolf Hitler,